Yes, Three-Eye Atlas. It sure is weird. I've heard everything from an intergalactic spacecraft to remnants of a 10 billion year old planet from the other side of the universe. I started thinking, if this thing's pretty much all nickel alloy, what if it's the remnants of like a magnetar or some type of fascinating star? I mean, I don't know. I'm just coming up with ideas out of, off the top here. But folks, that's not what we're going to get into today. We're going to get into what we do know about Three-Eye Atlas. And who better to bring on the show than Greg Allison? Now, Greg Allison has been a contractor at NASA. He is an aerospace engineer, rocket scientist who has worked on advanced propulsion systems, launch operations for about 30 years. He served as a Space Power Committee chair with the National Space Society, founded Green Power EMC and HAL5, Halo, Huntsville, Alabama, L5 Society, collaborated with NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center on multiple space infrastructure projects. He's known for his YouTube channels, Green Gregs and Galactic Gregs, and a couple of others, and I'm going to leave links in the video description box. He discusses in-depth space technology, preparedness, and disclosure topics. So today, we're going to talk once again about what we do know of Three-Eye Atlas. And I love the clickbait titles. I mean, some of these clickbait titles are amazing. There was one that came out the other day that said, NASA quietly activated its planetary defense network and didn't tell anybody. And I was like, ooh, that looks wild. So, dude, I did a little bit of research, and it's actually the Minor Planet Center. And it's a multitude of people and organizations that work with the Minor Planet Center. Now, there is funding from NASA to the Minor Planet Center, but they did recently send out emails and information about a campaign that's going to be going on next month, actually, where they're going to be observing Three-Eye Atlas. So here's the question, folks. October 1st comes around and the government shuts down. Three-Eye Atlas gets pretty close to Mars. I think Mars 3rd was when it was at its closest approach to Mars. And we're waiting for these high-rise photos, these incredible images from the high-rise. But what do we get? We get some weird grainy footage from the ESA, and it's this little blip in the distance that looks like some type of TIE fighter orbiting and spinning through space. Clearly, that's not what it is, but that's what the resolution makes it look like because it's so minuscule. So, Greg, I'm so excited for this opportunity, brother. I got my coffee. How the heck are you? Let's go.
I'm great. I just did a video on my Galactic Greg's channel where I explained that we actually should still be getting imagery from high res, most probably. What everybody's telling you is that the government shut down, so we're not getting it for that reason. But what they don't tell you is that the high-rise instrument is actually operated by the University of Arizona.
That's right.
That's where I now live in. Yes. So, and another thing about that image you mentioned it's actually from ESA's CASIS, CASSIS, which is an acronym somehow for ESA's ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter. Now, what I see people blowing this up and making all kind of claims about it, but guess what? That instrument at the distance from Three-Eye Atlas only has a resolution of 340 kilometers per pixel. Now, they believe the nucleus of this thing is only about maybe 5 kilometers, which is huge for an object, by the way, but it is far smaller than the resolution of a pixel. Therefore, you cannot make any inferences as to what this object is based on any of the instruments that have seen it so far. High res would actually have the highest resolution of any of the instruments that can look at it, because theoretically its resolution would be 30 kilometers per pixel, which is still too small to actually make any detailed discernments about the structure of the object itself. So there's a lot of hooey out there on YouTube and the internet, a lot of clickbait stuff and a lot of claims. It's just absolutely Bravo Sierra, if you know what I'm talking about, Rex. Among other things, the Hubble Space Telescope has the best image so far that I think is 71 kilometers per pixel. And when it gets closest to Earth on 19 December, the Hubble telescope would have about 52 kilometers per pixel, and the James Webb telescope would have 40 kilometers per pixel. This is when you come to a rocket scientist to get the scoop on. So all this stuff that all these people are claiming is just plain bull Sierra, if you know what I mean. It's good fertilizer, but it's not worth a dog for telling you what this object is in terms of its architecture. Now, you can tell a lot about its rotation, its spectral data. The problem with the high-res instrument, though, is its color is out right now. It's been out since 2023, so they do have a bit of a malfunction on it, but still, it could technically get the best resolution if they can point it properly and track it properly. We do not know that, and it's real mystery. Nobody but me has brought this up, and I brought this up on my Galactic Greg channel, my last video, is that you should actually be getting something out of this, because not only is the University of Arizona manning this instrument, but there's other graduate students involved in it who may be just working through college. There's other universities involved in it, other organizations, some may be international. So you would think that once you've got the best instrument that can get the picture of the strangest thing we've ever seen come through our solar system, that somebody is sitting in there trying their darndest to have gotten an image of this thing. And you would think that somebody would leak it, even though they may have to officially take it through the approved channels at NASA. When they're talking about grad students being involved, it's kind of hard for me to fathom that they wouldn't be doing everything they could to leak this data, because they would be famous if they did it. They would be absolutely famous if they could have brought this to the public. So it don't make any sense at all to me as to why we're not seeing imagery from high res, other than maybe they couldn't get it. We'll know more when NASA gets turned back on. We're going to know more on the 19th of December when it makes its closest approach. But we just missed our best chance to get good data on high res, it seems, which is just unfathomable considering the oddity of this very peculiar object 3I Atlas coming into our solar system from elsewhere.
It is really weird. And I wanted to show this to you. This is from the Minor Planet Center. And the Minor Planet Center is actually working with a collaboration now. Like I said, they're going to start next month, November 27th, on studying, analyzing 3I Atlas. Now, there's been some pretty good clickbait on that. People are coming out saying, NASA's activated the Planetary Defense Network. We're doomed. We've got missiles pointing at 3I Atlas. What are we going to do? And I'm like,
probe launch. I've seen all kind of bull Sierra postings on this. Nobody's launched anything. We don't really have anything that we technically could launch out to it and intercept it. It's going so fast. It's so far away. But if you read the article from the Minor Planet Center there, what they're talking about doing is a monitoring campaign. And just like you pointed out, that's what they're doing, is they're going to try their best to monitor it and get as many telescopes turned on it as the best analysis they can get, which is exactly what they should do. It's a shame that we don't see the stuff from the high-res instrument. But as you mentioned, it's not just NASA involved with the Minor Planet Center. There's a lot of other countries involved. And some people think everything out of space is NASA, and NASA controls everything. That's very far from the truth. There's many international organizations involved in space, civilian, military, industrial, amateur groups. There's a lot of organizations that has their finger in astronomy, monitoring stuff out there. So the fact that we don't have better data is crazy. I also see people posting what they claim are pictures from Dobsonian telescopes on Earth. Oh, we got it right here. We got this Dobsonian telescope. Well, it's going to have far less resolution than a Hubble telescope already got at 71 kilometers per pixel. You're not going to get that with any. Dobsonian telescopes are great, but you're not going to get the kind of resolution that I'm just seeing so many claims out there that's off the wall. But you don't need off the wall claims, because the data on this thing is strange enough, very strange by itself.
It is, and that's what I wanted to bring up is, well, first let me go over to this real quick. So when we read this from the Minor Planet Center, it says that basically it's keeping track of the observations and data. So like scrolling down here, I don't know what any of this means. Do you know what this means? Like all these numbers and observations, because this is supposed to be linked to 3i Atlas somehow.
It could be what do you call it? Inference. It could be the data of the orbit. It could be observations. No, without headers on those columns, you can't know what that is. Looks like maybe they got some hexadecimal characters in there because they got letters in it. So no, you can't, and without knowing what the headers on those columns are, you don't know what that data is, what it represents. But needless to say, they're taking data on it, or we're taking. Oh, that C number. Go back to that. That C number is actually the number of the object as it was originally registered, C20525.
Yeah. And I was going to bring up also, Greg, yesterday, so there's approximately 12 or 13 agencies, space agencies around the world that have the capability to launch satellites into space.
Right, true.
Right. And you know that better than I do, obviously. So I'm not telling you. But what was
around the world? All over the world, there's telescopes, especially in Chile, Hawaii. That's where the best telescopes are. We've got some in the United States, but to get the best images from the Earth, you need to be at a high altitude where you don't get as much atmospheric distortion, and because you're going to get that. And some of those telescopes have high-tech mirrors that can compensate for a lot of the atmospheric distortion. Also, you want your telescope cooled down so it don't have structural deformations, which would distort the image. And so it's easier to do when you're in a frigid mountain terrain like Chile, up in the Andes Mountains. It's probably in Mauna Loa or whatever it is, the volcano they got the observatory on in Hawaii, and even the University of Arizona. I've been to their facilities. They've got a mountain telescope. It's not as high as these other ones I mentioned, but they've got some good instruments there. And that's why they're quite involved in this kind of astronomy, by the way. So they've got a real good planet, asteroid, and monitoring group. There's people down there that really, they're just about 3 or 4 hours drive from me, that are quite involved in this. So that's why they're probably managing the high-res camera themselves. So, it's...
Sorry, Greg. I was just going to say what I was going to mention, and I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm wanting to figure this out here. So I went to Russia's space agency website. I searched for 3i Atlas. I typed in not only the 3i Atlas, but also the other C, whatever it is, 2025, and nothing. I went to India's space program, searched for 3i Atlas, nothing. India, nothing. Russia, nothing. China, nothing. Japan, nothing. The only thing outside of the telescope images that we've seen and the NASA stuff and the like the Gemini and the James Webb was that little ESA blip. But so my question is, why are there not other nations observing this just incredible object? And why aren't they releasing any footage of it?
Well, right now, they're not going to get anything unless it's from a satellite somewhere out around Mars. China does have one out there called the TIAWN, TIAWN, however they pronounce that. And it has a resolution probably comparable to HiRISE. And you would think China would definitely want to scoop this story if they could. It may be that, it's set up to monitor the surface of Mars, not to point to moving objects in space. It may be that they tried and just didn't get a good image, or maybe they tried and went, holy crap. That's the other possibility. Holy crap, we can't talk about this. So, we'll know more about this. It's on the other side of the sun. See, that's one of the improbabilities. It's not really one that Avi Loeb talked about that I took a crack at a few videos ago on my Galactic Greg's channel. So I actually worked up the total, racking up several of the improbabilities, and the probability that it's coming from the vicinity of the wow signal is probably like 6 in 1,000. The probability that it would come in so highly aligned with our plane of the ecliptic where it go through and see our planets is about 2 in 1,000. And if you look at, I calculated the probability, those probabilities, if you multiply them together, is 1 in 83,333. Now, I ain't heard anybody else say that, but I figured that out. And then I I did some hairy analysis with the aid of AI, mind you, of the probability of it actually coming in to visit so many of our rocky planets whilst having its most important aspect of its orbit, its perihelion, at a point where it's on the opposite side of the sun from Earth. The probabilities of that are like it's like 5 in 10,000 to 5 in 100,000. Anyway, the total improbabilities are just those three factors. And there's many other factors to be taken into account in addition to this, but just the improbabilities of those things come out to be something on the order of, what was my number on that? 1 in 1.167 billion. So we're talking more than, the improbabilities that just for those three factors alone are greater than 1 in a billion. Then you look at all these.
How do you come up with those numbers?
It was a lot of hairy math, and I did use AI to assist me with it.
Okay. So you're using math.
That's some extremely hairy math. It's got to do with the probability of planetary alignments being just perfect. So that's some pretty hairy stuff, but however you want to take it, this is really odd that it would be coming in where it's periapsis, which is the lower port of any orbit. In the case of going around the sun, we call it perihelion. If it was the lowest point orbit of an elliptical orbit going around the Earth, it'd be called perigee. So, they change the terminology according to the body being orbited, but there's generic terminology for a lot of periapsis. So it's off the charts improbable. And that's the scary thing about it. That is the scary thing. Now, it's probably a rock. But here's the problem. Actually, some of the spectrographical data kind of matches it more to asteroids than to a comet. And that might explain some things. But I've got we can talk about all the improbabilities that Avi Loeb was looking at. He had several factors, 7 factors he talked about, and that planetary alignment is an 8th one. That's not on his list, but it's very significant. And like I said, this is why you come to rocket scientists to get this kind of data. I've been pondering this. There's you and I have talked about the Fermi paradox, and I've said, Rex, we should be able, I've said this on this channel, your channel many times in the past, we should be able to look out and see Dyson spheres, ring worlds, or some sign of Kardashev type 2 or type 3 civilizations, which should yield, theoretically, massive megastructures in space. And according to the Fermi paradox, they should be here already. There is a couple, there's more than one theory as to why they may not be here, or they may be here. We just, haven't officially got it out there. But whether that's the case or not, you should still be able to look up in the sky and see evidence, but we don't. Nothing that we can hang a hat on. I mean, there's some suggestions that there might be a Dyson sphere or two. It looks kind of wrecked out there, and wrecked would probably be the appropriate thing. But I've come up with this, there's the theory of the great filter, and it says that civilizations just don't make it much past where we're at because maybe they wipe themselves out, and due to technological proliferation, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction type capabilities, which we have a lot of that is getting democratized, and it may be that we can't survive ourselves, especially if civilization has as much hate in the hearts that we have today, and it seems to be getting far worse. How do we survive ourselves and get through this point? I would submit there's only 3 ways forward. Annihilation, we wipe ourselves out. We turn into a high mind creature, which I think is what China or the World Economic Forum would like to take us to, is we're all mind-numb robots like worker ants, those that they want to keep, those few that would actually want to keep, and they wouldn't need many of us with robotics the leader developing. So a lot of people are favoring a lot of politics that runs in those 2 directions. The other alternative is we find a way to get the hatred out. We got to find a way to spread love if we're going to survive. Now, it may be that some other civilizations managed to escape their world. We can't say they all got terminated great filter. Just think if the Nazis had won World War II and taken over the world, they would have colonized space long ago, decades ago, probably. They would have been a lot more aggressive about it than we've been. And a civilization like that might spread, and they may turn hive mind if they survive. Because the other theory, one of the other theories that I think is credible is there's been a couple of theories that just came up recently I think are really lame. But the hive mind, one of them is that they don't have the technology. The civilization gets to our point and then they'll just quit. We actually have the technology right now to go out and colonize space large scale, but and spread throughout the galaxy. We have that technology right now. In fact, we had it in the 60s. So I can talk more about that if you'd like, but I will in a little bit. But the thing is that people need to go to my Galactic Greg's channel and watch some of my more recent videos, or go to my Green Greg's channel and look for the video "A Nuke in Every Pot." And it kind of underscores that was done 6 years ago. And what I wasn't talking about then, which really I was most concerned about, was the power to harness zero-point energy, the power to harness anti-gravity technology, space-time. Those are technologies that we're on the cusp of that I don't think that we can handle as a species. I think it would take us down the road of the civilization depicted in the science fiction movie from 1954, which I think was the best science fiction movie ever made, called The Forbidden Planet, in which they find evidence of this advanced civilization that wiped itself out like within a night because they developed very powerful technology. So
makes me think of super intelligence.
Yeah, within a single night. Yeah, within a single night, they eradicated themselves and that sort of. And I think for 1954, that was some very forward thinking. Of course, we have like the War of the Worlds came to us from late 1800s, that story. So there's been some interesting ideas that's been out there for a long time. But we've got to somehow overcome our hatreds. And we're not on the path to do that right now. We've got to find a way to turn this world around, and we got to do it worldwide, because if we get all peace loving here, and if we can't metastasize love around the planet, somebody else will take us out. But anyway, so what I wanted to get to is this: there was this theory called the dark forest, and the dark forest says that a civilization would realize that there may be other more advanced civilizations out there than them, so they would go quiet. They would not announce who they are, where they were. They would just shut up. They wouldn't be sending out signals like we have. Hey, we're here, or probes with markers like the Voyager, telling Voyager 1 with the plaque, telling other civilizations how to get there. Oh no, they wouldn't do that at all. As you know, Stephen Hawking was very much against that, and for this reason. And he was a very high mind, a good thinker. Well, it turns out that I think it's more than that. I think that a civilization, once they realize that, might decide that even being on their star, on their planets from which they originated, would be dangerous, because everybody's going to be looking to their stars and the planets next to them for evidence of advanced civilization. So the first thing they would do when they got the capability would be to move out to their Oort clouds, their Kuiper belt, and colonize those places, colonize the comets. If you colonize the comets, what I calculated, Rex, that if you go out into space and colonize the comets, there is vast resources, very vast resources available. So vast that it is absolutely mind-boggling. Let's see, we're talking about there's enough resources in our asteroid belt to build these things like we call them Bernal spheres. They could be like 1.12 miles in diameter and rotate 1 RPM, and you'd have little mini inside-out worlds. Bernal came up with this back in 1929, this overall concept, and it was further developed by Dr. Gerard Kilnell and others since. But you could basically hollow out a comet and create one of these inside, use nuclear technology, from the 40s and 50s, and you could have the power you need. You could use Instrument drives concept developed in the 60s to get out to them pretty rapidly. And you could replicate 1.7 from our own Kuiper belt and Oort cloud. You could replicate 1.78 trillion of these space habitats. You could develop this 35,700 times the surface area of Earth. You could come up with a population that would be 2.2 billion times bigger than our current population, based on having one person per square kilometer, which is, yeah, I would say you could actually do far better than that. You got to remember, the Earth's surface is mostly non-arable. It's over 2/3 water, and the land mass is mostly desert and tundra and other basically almost uninhabitable regions. It's certainly not areas that support a lot of agriculture, where you could optimize that, and you could use technology that I've talked about on my Green Greg's channel for how you can feed a family of 4 on 1/10 of an acre. And you can make it, and in fact, that's using low tech. You can go high tech, you can do even better than that. So you can have an extremely vast population of humans living in our Oort cloud or space aliens. Now, all that given, if a civilization has moved out to their Oort clouds, and if they're detecting a possibility of a civilization that might be aggressive being developed, they would probably want to investigate it. If they think that civilization is on the cusp of developing these kind of technologies as it is aggressive, they might want to eliminate it. And how would they? Here's the scary part. Here's the real scary. How would they go about sending a probe in? Well, they would want it to look natural. And so my theory of moving out of the Oort cloud and moving away from the star, I call that the dark fortress, the idea of building dark fortress habitats in these comets. So basically, you would send you wouldn't even need, you could use 1960s technology, Inman drive, which is a particle accelerator for an engine. You could travel at near relativistic speeds, and you could send a probe to these other stars that were of interest. If you thought there was a threat in your neighborhood, you would definitely at least want to investigate it. And 2, you might want to take action about it. And so you would send a probe in that looked like a comet, or as close to it as you could get it. And you would probably want to sneak it in so that the most critical part of your orbit was directly in opposition of that star from the planet that you were most interested in, which is what 3I Atlas is doing, by the way. It's probably a natural object, but this is exactly the way a civilization from a dark fortress concept would approach us. So the technology for doing this can exist. According to the Fermi paradox, they should already be here in droves and numbers, and maybe some are. But maybe there's some other little civilization out there that, I don't say little, because it would be, like I say, it would be trillions of worlds around any given star, and they may have colonized many stars. They could have, we're talking over a quadrillion people, or space aliens, quadrillions and quadrillions of them. Numbers that are like 10 to the 19 just around a star like our sun. It's huge. It's 19 zeros. It's huge numbers. And so it's possible. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just saying it's possible that a civilization would send a probe in that looked just like 3I Atlas. Maybe a Mau Mau was the first exploratory probe, because it certainly seemed to accelerate when it left us. And then the acceleration is difficult to explain. So maybe this is the follow-up. And now you heard about the Orbith maneuver. The Orbith maneuver.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, tell us about that.
The Orbith maneuver is that once you reach that parapacis or perihelion with our sun, perigee with Earth, once you're at the lowest point of that orbit, you've been sucked in by that by that body you're going around or near to, and you accelerate until you're at that lowest point in that orbit. Your speed picks up, and that's your max speed is at perihelion in this case. And that is the best place to do orbital maneuvering. Now, the Orbith maneuver was the idea that you would actually speed up to be able to get more speed to go somewhere else. But there is, so everybody's talking about the Orbith maneuver. If the Orbith maneuver is executed, it will tell us 2 things. 1, there's intelligence in this device. 2, they're trying to get away. That would be good news in a sense. Scary, but good. The other possibility is, Rex, that maybe, say if you're tootling along through space and you want to slow down, you would turn your engines in the direction of your travel and do a burn to slow down. And that's also the best time to slow down and circularize, or get into the orbit of the body, or going around if you're not in the orbit of it already, or circularize your orbit at a lower orbit, take out some of that velocity energy. The best place is the same location when you're at perihelion, perigee, parapsis. If we don't see this object when we think we should see it, look out. Look out. That would be that means something's coming, and it might not be good. If they're just wanting to monitor us, they won't have a need to slow down. If they're slowing down, our world is about to change in ways that we cannot fathom. Big time. If it slows down, yikes. So that is something to think about. That is something to pay a lot of attention to. If it slows down, we are in deep kimchi. So that's what we got to watch for. Is this thing slowing down? Is it trying to go into an orbit around our star? Is it going to, at that point, it's inside the orbit of Mars, like between Earth and Mars, flying retrograde. So it could actually approach Earth fairly quick if it does that. Astronomically speaking, within, a couple months. So, depending on how much it would slow down, we don't know. I mean, you could throw all kind of conjecture out there, but this is exactly how a dark fortress civilization, and that's my theory, dark fortress, not to be confused with dark forest. I put a new wrinkle into it, and I've launched that theory on the video. I did it because the whole idea was spooky. I really set up a spooky ambience for it. I made it very poetic. I put a lot of graphics into the video, my dark fortress video. So the dark forest is different. My theory is that kind of a spinoff from dark forest. Yeah, if you scroll over a couple, no, go down, right below the next line at the bottom. Yeah, that's it right there. That's the video. I've spent 3 weeks producing that video and some money on it, and it's not getting a lot of views for some reason. I don't know why, but people really ought to check that out and watch it, because I also talk about how we can colonize space vastly in there. So it's not all scary. There's hope in that video too. So it's both scary and inspirational at the same time if you watch it through. And I'll probably spin off some videos from that, some other content. But the thing I'm aiming at here is that a civilization might have broke out from the great filter, and it may not be friendly. It may not at all be friendly. So that's what we got to worry about. Hopefully, if it is another civilization, it's not malevolent. But there's a probability that it would be, especially if they're adherents of the dark forest, dark fortress type mindsets. And if they are paranoid about other civilizations. So when would you want to visit a civilization, especially if you thought that maybe they need to be taken out? Well, it would be just prior to them reaching the ability to go into space and mine the resources in space and develop a self-sustaining expansion capability in space, which we are on the precipice of with the Starship, SpaceX Starship. We're on the very precipice of this. Elon's talking about having people on Mars by 2028. I don't quite buy that, but you can definitely see it happening in the early 2030s. So this would be the opportune time to pay us a visit if you had a concern in that category. So that timing is also a probability factor that Avi Loeb don't talk about. That makes it even more concerning. So when you start reckoning all this stuff up, the probabilities are almost incalculable. When you start looking at all the other of his 7 factors, I just added 2 to it. One, the actual planetary alignment, and 2, the other one I added is the timing in our development of our civilization. When you start adding those 2 into it, we need to keep an eye on it. It's probably just a rock, but holy smoke, the possibility exists that it's not just a rock. It's a possibility. however remote it is, it's something we need to pay attention to, because if the Fermi paradox is a paradox that don't make sense. Why aren't they all over us? Why aren't they here? When you take that into account and you start factoring in dark forest, dark fortress, which is my concept, then, and I say I've just created an entire new concept on the Fermi paradox. When you start factoring these things into it, and why would a civilization not colonize their Oort clouds and Kuiper belts? The resources are so vast. The good thing about it is you could actually green the cosmos, just like my room here. You could green the cosmos. I mean, it could be a very positive thing for life, other than leaving the universe as a bunch of rocks that are going to bump into each other and decay over time due to the theories of thermodynamics and disorder, increasing entropy. If you actually went out into the Oort clouds and colonized them, you can make a beautiful civilization, actually. Vast, beautiful worlds, and lots of them, and different ones. I even teased in my video there about, you might have an Amish dark fortress. Keep us the hell out. So I had a little fun with it. But, you could have all manners, when you're talking about trillions of space habitats, each one could have like their own little culture, their own societies, their own cities inside. What you could do with them is actually very exciting and positive. But if you're adherent to the dark fortress concept, if you're paranoid about other civilizations, the prospects could be dangerous for us, could be perilous beyond belief. So we got to do some serious hoping and praying that whatever this is, if it's not natural, that they can be convinced not to eradicate us. Could be like Asmo for childhood's end, that that once we got to a certain point of some other civilization would come to us and say, okay, we'll give you everything you want, you can play and enjoy life for X number of years, and then game's over. You cease to exist. This could be a childhood's end type scenario. I don't know. That's just conjecture. Now, we are in the area of conjecture, and we started out with science, and science is, the resolution. You can see these things shooting down a lot of the bogus claims that people are making, but you don't need to make bogus claims for this to be absolutely off the walls, off the charts concerning. But let's base it in science and things that could happen. The things that could happen, when you do use conjecture, it needs to be based on scientific approach, scientific theory. It don't mean that this is what it is, but the Fermi paradox is a paradox that is very difficult to answer. And I've come up with a viable answer, and that is this dark fortress concept. And I really think, if it's a good spooky Halloween video, if nothing else, the one I did on Dark Fortress. You should watch it. And you should watch my other videos I did on 3i Atlas, because I look at the science of this thing. And I think the first one I was talking about the Ensman drive. So based on technologies that existed decades ago, I'm talking back in the 60s, 70s, you could absolutely, with that level of technology, develop the kind of civilizations I'm talking about. Or the technologies we're coming into, it'd be even easier. But we've got to find a way to survive our own selves. We've got to find a way to get through these things. And it's like I said, I think we got two alternatives. Either we're going to eradicate ourselves, and that's the path we're on, or we'll turn into a hive mind civilization, which is like not existent, which is much better than being eradicated, because what few people are left will be mind-numbing robots serving a few handful of elites. The queen bees, which you wouldn't even be conscious probably, which is what value is that? And the other alternative is, hey, we said we don't need overlords. We don't need all these big governments. Maybe a tribal sized government is really all you need, because I think big governments of any type are a threat. And with the technological proliferation, we have a special global governance. I think that we've got to get away from these hatreds and find a way to cultivate love. We've got to find a way to spread love. And I've got a lady I'm going to interview right now. We're scheduled to talk on the 14th of November. Her name is Shanaz Sani. She's a Pakistani rocket scientist that I've known for many years, and she's a beautiful soul. She went up against all kind of odds coming out of the culture she came out of from Pakistan to get education, to work in the world of aerospace, and she's very spiritual, very spiritual. And we're both in tune with this idea. We got to find a way to turn this world around to head toward love to survive the situation that we're in. You know, I do believe in prep, and I do believe in self-defense, because there are in our world, there's people that would do harm to you, and it may be the case in the universe itself. So we've got to find ways to turn all this stuff around. And, you know, part of the defense is just to get out to, you know, to survive as a civilization. We do need to go out into the work clouds big time. So you know, we got a lot of choices to make, and we don't have a lot of time to make them. And maybe it's possible that 3i Atlas is the signal that our time is up. It may be. I hope that's not the case.
Time's just beginning, Greg. We're just getting started, man. This is, you know, like 100 years ago, imagine what people would have thought if they saw a smartphone or F-35 or, you know, one of these super like Lamborghini hypercars or something like that. It would just be, it would be like alien technology to them. So I don't see how it's any different 100 years from now that we have technologies that would be beyond most people's wild dreams today, especially with the technological graph. Like radio was a couple hundred years ago, and now we've got probes that we're launching into space and just some exotic weaponry and technologies that are sci-fi type technologies. So I don't see there being anything different 100 years from now, unless, like you said, civilization destroys itself. I'm gonna step on the side of optimism here and be like, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. So maybe there will be a hive mind created, but there will be those that break off. And as far as this object goes, like you're saying, we don't need to make up stories about 3i Atlas to make it fascinating. I mean, whatever this thing is, it's amazing. And I wanted to point something out here to people because a lot of people have heard about the nickel without the iron that has been spotted on 3i Atlas. And I want you to describe how they're doing that, if you would, please. But before I do, I just wanted to point this out. So the nickel alloy in 3i Atlas is found in industrial applications, such as metal coatings for strengthening surfaces and in products like electronic vehicle batteries and stainless steel. And that's according to New York Post, Economic Times, Next Big Future. This is because the pure nickel seen in the comet lacks iron, which is a signature of industrial nickel refining processes on Earth. So the fact that these metal coatings are used to strengthen and protect surface materials, particularly in the aerospace industry, that makes it even more fascinating.
Well, how about this? You use nickel alloys in rocket engines too.
Whoa. Whoa. See, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yes, sir. But now there is, that's an anomaly. The fact that we were just seeing nickel and not nickel iron, because naturally you would see nickel iron. A lot of our asteroids, meteorites, comets have exhibited nickel iron, not nickel. Now there was a paper, and I showed that on one of my Green Greg's videos. Was it the last one or a couple back? I think I showed it on the last one. In fact, the last video I posted on this channel, that talking about how this could evolve, and they were talking about one of the possibilities was from a tetracarbonyl compound. It was nickel tetracarbonyl, that it might be, which is definitely a technologically induced love endures forever, be love. Exactly. A technologically induced compound that would not be natural. But they did not say that was the case. And a lot of people have been publishing, they discovered this nickel tetracarbonyl on 3i Atlas. No, they didn't. They discovered nickel. So that paper was plain on that. And so I think some people actually misquoted Avi Loeb on that, because I don't think Avi Loeb would have said that either. So, but you know how writers are, journalists, they always get the story a little skewed, a little wrong. I've never seen them ever publish anything that was 100% correct. Honestly, never, ever have I seen that in any kind of article. So you got to take that filter into account when you're reading anything. You got to be skeptical somewhat. You know, you're reading the prejudices of the author that wrote it, and maybe they're trying to be more sensationalist to get more clickbait. But as you said, you don't need to be sensationalist about this thing. It's already crazy and sensational. Just even if it is a natural object, it is still crazy sensational. But this should be if it is a natural object, this should be a lesson to us to get ourselves prepared for such time that it may not be. Because if you take this dark fortress concept take into account, that is what we may be encountering, and we may encounter it soon, because this is the optimal time for a civilization to knock on our doors like really loud. So that may be coming. But the other thing is, what I've been saying here is we cannot survive ourselves. You know, we are heading toward a ugly great filter, wiping ourselves out if we don't change course. And the only way to change course is with our hearts. But we've got to reach out into the other countries who are often aggressive also, like China, for example, claiming the entire South China Sea and, you know, having designs on Taiwan. Russia, we got to reach into the populations of these other countries. You can't do it reaching the government. You can't do it reaching our own government. We got to do this mano a mano, person to person. We've got to start metastasizing love throughout civilization of our entire species, and we got to do this person to person. I mean, you see, there are people who travel here from these other countries. You need to take these people aside and start talking with them and spreading the gospel of love, the message of love.
I agree on that. And I just wanted to shoot this out there real quick, this thought. So I was watching YouTube the other day, and this guy he traveled across China, and he went across a lot of parts in China, and he's from the UK, and he went through a lot of places in China that are, you know, way out there. We don't hear much about, we don't see much about. And the people that he met were so nice. I was blown away. I was like, wow. So give you just one quick example. I'm glad you brought this up. You know, we all need to work together and love, you know, peace, harmony, work together, not work to blow each other up. Let's work to lift each other up. But there was this one place where he was in the middle of nowhere in the second biggest desert in the world, where they were industrializing it. But he's in the middle of nowhere. He's hitchhiking. And there's this checkpoint in China, like we see here in the States, where like in certain states where you have to go check your diesel rig in, they weigh it, stuff like that. And so he goes there, and he's got a tent. That's all he's got. And he's like, can I pop my tent up here by your building? And the guy that worked there, like the official dude, is like, no, you can stay in here. You can stay in this room. You're more than welcome to. So they like gave him a freaking room to stay at. Some hitchhiker from the UK. They didn't question him, nothing. They're just like, oh yeah, here you go, buddy. Here's a nice room. Enjoy your stay. Have fun in China. And I was just like, it'd be very rare that you would see that in the States, where some hitchhiker guy, oh yeah, go ahead, stay in my business. No problem. Have a good time. So I was just like, I was really happy to see how cool and nice people were in China, because we oftentimes get the westernized version of what people are like in different countries, which can create division. And like you said, right now, it's more important than ever to be working together, not against each other. And I just got a super chat from Cheryl. Thank you so much. She says, this is important. Thank you. People are loving what you have to say here, Greg, as well. So this is fascinating, man. I'm so glad you're on the show. And I'm sorry to make a short story long, but I was really impressed to see how cool.
No, that's vital to the whole where we need to go, because inside we're all pretty much the same. It don't matter what you look like on the outside. It don't matter if you're black, green, red, purple. Inside, we humans are all basically the same. We have the same kind of wants. And, you know, there was this, the daughter of the toy manufacturer, the Marx company, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who really promoted an idea called synergism, where she got people together and who would be like against each other. She put them in a workshop and get them working toward common goals, and she called it synergism. This may be a part of how we solve some of this stuff, but we also need open dialogue. A lot of people are wanting to shut down open dialogue, and they're being very militant about trying to do that. That's absolutely the wrong approach. We need to talk with each other. We need to have discourse. We need to get down to the bottom, because truth will survive discourse. If you are of an opinion that does not allow discourse, in your opinion, is bankrupt. But we've got to do this, though, from the basis of love. We've got to come out and approach other people and figure out how to get to the same basic level. And see, the thing is, most people are good on the inside. Basically, we all got our, we're all human. We all got our knots and warts, but that can be worked through. It can be worked around. There are a few people that are called sociopaths and psychopaths that have no empathy. And that is a big problem. And unfortunately, they tend to gravitate to becoming the heads of major corporations and governments. So all of our governments are suspect. Anybody running big corporations or any big government should be suspect, because just the desire to be in those positions already sets the stage that you might not have the best interest of the people at heart, no matter what you say. And usually the sociopaths and psychopaths are very charming people. They got charisma, and that makes them even more dangerous. But they tend to be the heads of states. Authoritarian nations tend to have psychopaths, pure psychopaths running them. That's the only way you can really run an authoritarian regime. And that's scary. A lot of the isms in our world lead to that kind of leadership paradigm. And it's been the most natural leadership paradigm for mankind throughout most of our nation state history of the world. Personally, I think the most governance we need is a tribal council. Be honest. I don't think we need all this trappings of big government that we have today. But I think we've got to metastasize the message of love. We can't do it going to the leaders of the countries and the corporations. They're not going to be with us. We've got to do it mano a mano around the world. We got to find a way to reach out. And you can start that today. You can do it yourself. You can just reach out to somebody across the aisle, somebody that looks different, somebody special from another country, and just take them aside and start talking with them and be nice to them. I went to Russia back in 2010, Moscow, and I stood in the streets of Moscow and I looked around. Can you please leave a comment? And I looked around and I said, why in the world would we want to nuke this place? And I looked at the people there and said, why in the world would they want to nuke us? And the truth is, the people, mano a mano, would not typically want to do that. Now, populations often get caught up because they're programmed by their medias, and literally programmed. They keep getting the same messages, hypnotic, believe this, believe this, believe this, obey, obey, obey. This is the way, follow me. Follow me. It's this, it's that. Those are the bad guys. You follow me, and we'll take care of ourselves against these bad guys. That's absolutely the wrong approach. So you can't trust any of the medias. Indigenous elders have keys to the living library. There you go, Pamela. But we need a very different structure in our society. We need to go back to families and maybe a more tribal type governance, like this. Councils of elders is most government it worked for most of human development and it worked reasonably well. So we need to, like I said, reach out and metastasize love. We don't need all this crap they're throwing at us. They lure us in. Oh, we can take your money, but then we'll give you this in return. But it's always a lot less than what they took from you in the first place. It's a con job. Oh yeah, we'll give you benefits. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. Tribes took care of themselves. Even in nation states, a lot of times it was the communities, the churches, whatever society they were in that took care of their people. And that can be done. Extended families. And when we don't have extended families, kids don't have the social mooring that they need. Make families great again. Absolutely. When I was a kid growing up, I might be tempted to do, and this might be true for any kid. You might be tempted to do something bad, and you might be mad at your parents. So you might go out and do that. But there was always some aunt or uncle or grandma, grandpa that you would not want to disappoint for anything in the world. What would Aunt so-and-so think if I did this? I can't do that. They don't have that anymore. The extended families are non-existent. The kids are unmoored, and they're out, they're raised by gangs now and each other. And it's kind of tribal, but in a very bad id side of the mind sort of way. We've got to get out of all this. We got to go back to love, and we got to spread the message of love. Make families great again. that's what we've got to do. We've got to, I got this concept called universal habitat for a home you can live in and make a living out of. And I put that on Green Greg's and Galactic Greg's, where you don't have to move around to chase jobs anymore. That's been a big part of what shattered our societies. That and some of the welfare programs that incentivized people having kids out of wedlock. If you got a husband, you don't get all this money. So there's a lot of things we need to do to change this world and put it on a positive path. But we don't have a lot of time left. We've got to start doing this now. We got to start reaching out. So you didn't know we was talking about 3I Atlas was going to wind up with a sermon on love.
I'm glad you did, man. I'm really glad you did. It's funny. I'm reading through the comments, and the majority of the comments are like, yeah, Greg, we're right there with you. Absolutely. And then there's one guy in there that's like, dude, what's the leak, man? What's going on with 3I Atlas? So for those of you that just joined us, thank you very much for joining us and being here. Greg is a rocket scientist, an aerospace engineer. He's been a contractor at NASA, and he's worked on a lot of projects in space or with the space programs. So he is an incredible resource. He's a great friend of mine. He's got a kind soul. And we're talking about these strange anomalies with 3I Atlas. And you missed a lot of the really good stuff. So you may want to go back and rewind it, but we're gonna recap on that again, because we've got a lot of people that are joining us in this live chat. And thank you everybody for being here. Let's jump over to this page right here from Professor Loeb. I'm a big fan of Professor Loeb. I've heard, there's a lot of conflict on the internet about him, but of course there is, because he's a Harvard professor. So any Harvard professor, there's going to be conspiracies about. That's just the way the world works. I get it. I understand. So that's fine. But let's look at some of the information that he shared with the world so far. And he's not saying that it's an alien spacecraft, and he's not saying that it's a comet. He's rating it on a scale of 1 to 10 as a 4. 1 being comet, 10 being alien technology. He's given it a 4. I think that's pretty substantial. I think that's pretty dang substantial. And as Greg had pointed out earlier, the math based, he calls it hairy math, the hairy math based upon the trajectory and the location and the data that we have so far, very unlikely that it is your typical comet. Once again, it's not necessarily an alien spacecraft. It might be, and we really want to pay attention to what it's going to do the next few weeks, because if it does slow down or move trajectory or it stops, then buckle up, buttercups. Let's go. But let's jump in. We're going to go through the 8 anomalies that Professor Loeb has put out there thus far, and I'm going to have Greg decode these with his knowledge base. So the first one is this. 1. Its trajectory is aligned to within 5 degrees with the elliptic plane of the planets around the sun, with a likelihood of 0.2%. And this is Professor Loeb's Medium page. You can go make sure to subscribe to this page. You'll get emails. But this paper is titled "The International Asteroid Warning Network Initiated a Campaign to Monitor 3I Atlas," which it did. But it's the Minor Planets Network. It's not NASA's Planetary Defense Program specifically. So let's talk about this, Greg. The first one here, if we can, please. How do you think he gets this number, and what do you think about this?
Okay, that's very significant, because it could, we got 360 degrees just in a circle, and then you come in from all over. This thing, comets and things usually come, especially when you come from the Oort cloud, don't come in from the plane of the ecliptic, and something coming from a star just anywhere out there should be coming in from a random direction. The fact that it's coming in with the plane of our planets and 5 degrees is very insubstantial. That's inconsequential. That means it's close enough to have direct ready access to the planets, inner planets of our solar system. And that's kind of interesting. It just made a near pass to Mars. It's going to make a near pass. It's actually going to be pretty close to Venus at one point. It's going to be close to Jupiter when it exits, if it exits. And it's going to be just opposite of Earth, which is really strange when it reaches the perihelion point, that's even stranger. That he didn't factor that in. Like I said, that makes it really off the wall. But 0.2%, percent is something divided by 100. 1% is 1 in 100. So what he's talking about here is 2 in 1,000. The probability is 2 in 1,000. The overall probability to be 0.002 for that. And that's indeed true, because just coming in at this geometry is strange, especially for an object. Just the third one we've seen coming in at an alignment like that is something to pay attention to. That means it's got planetary access. It can definitely access our planets. And coming in retrograde means you can access them really fast, rather than trying to chase them if it came in the other way. So I don't think he actually talked about the retrograde part of it, but it is retrograde. So now, even if it goes away, even if it exits our solar system, we don't know that it might not have sent out little probes to Mars, or might send probes to the icy moons of Jupiter, where they could have like nanotechnology that replicates structures, and maybe a robot civilization of sorts. And we may not be able to know it because, if your resolution on this thing is you can't see it, less than a pixel. Like I said, our best resolution that we can expect will be with the James Webb Telescope, which will be about, on the order of 40 to 50 kilometers per pixel. And then we're talking about something that's 5 kilometers wide. You're not going to be able to tell the surface features of it. And so if you got something the size of a starship even that lands on Mars, you're not going to see it. You're just flat not going to see it. Now, an orbiter going around Mars might detect that, but then again, it could be something much smaller. But nanotechnology might be something the size of a basketball or a softball. But then if it starts replicating, then yeah, you'll see that, but it may be too late. So just even the fact that it may pass out, we may go, what was left behind? So this is still something to keep our eyes on. It's now time to pay a lot of attention to what's going on in our solar system. But yeah, that is true. The probability of that is exceedingly low.
We're having some glitches with audio, so I'm trying to close down all screens possible. And while you were talking, I turned my video off. I'm hoping that the sound is better now, folks. Please let me know. It was going pretty good up until that point, so I don't know what's going on, man. The internet's
Gremlins.
The second one here. So I think you did thank you, Greg. That was an outstanding explanation of number one. Number two is, and this is from Professor Loeb's analysis, and you've added some great information to this as well. Let's go to number two here. During July and August, it displayed a sunward jet, which is referred to as an anti-tail, that is not an optical illusion from geometric perspective, unlike familiar comets. What is your thought on that?
Well, that so-called sunward jet might have been pieces of a shield that might have had around it of various little small objects that might have flew in advance of it to intercept particles, so that any impact would not be great on the parent body. So it could have been a mass shield around the object itself against collisions, and you're seeing the sunward tail because it's being eliminated from the sun. So that's where it may be comets that have had an anti-tail, but they've been rare. And supposedly now the tail's turned around. We're going to talk about something else once we go through these. There's another aspect to all these oddities that makes it even stranger. But so that's kind of strange. But yeah, let's move to the next one. That is strange. It is not what you normally see.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the other comets. There have been other comets that have shown a similar signature. So how's Greg's audio? Is Greg's audio okay, or is it just me? Yep, your voice is cutting out. Rex Leak Project. So is Greg's. Dude, bad internets. Come on, internets. We love you. Be nice to us. Be nice.
Tell people to go to my videos and watch them on this topic. I talk about these things in great detail. You might need to leave that in the notes because they may not hear me saying it even. I don't know what they're getting.
It says we're both cutting out. So, damn it. That pisses me off. Oh, gosh, dang it. Sandy, thank you so much for the super chat.
Maybe it's time to introduce another concept.
We've got 6 more things to decode here, man, and wow, dang it.
Cutting out.
Okay, folks, we're sorry. They said don't worry about it. Keep going.
Okay.
All right, Number 3, its nucleus is about 1 million times more massive than Oumuamua and 1,000 times more massive than 2I Borisov, while moving faster than both altogether with the likelihood of less than 0.1%. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so his supposition on that was that we should be seeing a lot more smaller objects before we see the bigger one. Out of the 3 we've seen, for the third one to be so large, it's very improbable. And he's saying it may be 33 billion tons in the lower number of mass. And he comes up with that number because it does have a jet on it that, not to perturb its orbit, it would have to have at least 33 billion tons of mass for that jet to not make it move more. Force equals mass times acceleration. So you can get you should be seeing some acceleration, but having a high mass cuts down the acceleration you would get. So we do know that jet is applying a force to it, but we're not seeing the acceleration. So if you think force equals mass times acceleration, solving for acceleration, you would divide force by mass. If the mass is huge, the acceleration is going to be small. That's how you look at it. So yeah, that's saying it's got to be really big. At least, and it could be more, at least 33 billion tons. This thing is
33, man. You know what? So anytime people see 33, they automatically, well, I shouldn't say anybody, but a lot of people that see 33 in the news, anytime they see that, they think automatically that there's some secret agenda because the number 33. And look, I get it. Maybe sometimes there are, but sometimes it's just that's what the number is. I did find it fascinating, though, the 33 billion tons. And so a couple of days ago, there's a solar conjunction with 3I Atlas and Earth. Now, if you don't know what a solar conjunction is, folks, that's where, okay, so the sun would be in the center, the 3I Atlas would be on the other side of the sun, and the Earth would be right here. When that happened on the 21st, there was a massive solar flare, like an X5 potentially, out of the back of the sun. And I thought to myself, wow, could 3I Atlas have helped create that CME? And somebody said, Rex, it's not big enough. But I must remind you that it's approximately 33 billion tons, and it's made of the nickel alloy, shooting through space at 127,000 miles per hour. That could create some cosmic discharge and some cosmic interactions there. But there was another massive solar flare yesterday out of the back of the sun. And if we look at the orbit of 3I Atlas, it's still close to solar conjunction with Earth, because it's kind of on the other side of the sun, at least according to our view of the Earth. So do you think that there could be possibly CMEs created and massive solar flares caused by this object?
Well, it would suggest it's got to send something to the sun, some projectile probably traveling at near relativistic speeds. That's possible. If it's a natural object, I don't think it would. I think it would have to be coincidental that this stuff is happening. And it could be. The sun does get active at times. Maybe the sun says, hey, we don't want you. I'm going to try to fry you before you mess with my creatures that's been here around me for a long time that I've been, taking care of. Maybe the sun is trying to get rid of it. But, I would suggest that, that's kind of a big conjecture too. I actually thought one time about writing a science fiction novel about a civilization that felt threatened. They received our World War II communications, and they sent a probe to our star to eliminate our star, to get rid of all life in the solar system. Now, and so it was going to have a device that was going to launch into the sun to cause it to go supernova. So maybe they're gearing up for that. That would be scary. Ed Dames predicted a solar kill shot in Revelations, the book of Revelation. There's an event where the sun fries a third of the earth. Let's hope that's not related to this. But when those sunspots that are causing us turn around to our side in a few days, we may be in deep trouble. So I don't know that, I think that's a lot of conjecture. I couldn't assign a probability to that, but it should not be happening. And there shouldn't be a connection, even with a nickel body that big. It's so far out. Inverse square law would suggest that it really has no connection, unless they are using something to point to the sun at relativistic speeds that may be causing it to act up. Now, if they have technology, warp drive, if they have technology of being able to harness 0-point energy, that would be a lot easier to do. But then they might not be coming to us in a comet. Once again, they're just trying to sneak up on us. So how to get past the asteroid belt unscathed? There's a lot of asteroids in the asteroid belt. There's a lot of comets in the comet cloud, but there are actually, even with a great number of them, they're very far apart. Most of our probes go through there all the time without ever having an encounter. It's not something, your probability of actually having an impact is extremely improbable. So I know some people are worried about it. Oh, this thing is going to travel through the asteroid belt, and especially when it goes out, and it might cause asteroids to slow down and come at us. And unless it actually targets them, probably not. It could target them. It could be why that the dinosaurs was a targeted event. Maybe somebody somewhere decided those creatures
they're eating too much and they're not making enough cool stuff.
They might have. We don't know. There's this Silurian hypothesis that a civilization developed at the end of the dinosaur era. Civilizations can grow fast. Look how fast we've come up in the last 6,000 years. We would have no fossil record of it. And so there could have been a vast civilization that developed in the dinosaur era that somebody decided was threatening, according to, the dark fortress type concepts, and they made it decided, well,
maybe the reptiles don't come from outer space. They were genetically modifying things during the time of the raptor scientists. Maybe we were made by the dinosaurs. Yes, now that's good.
Some of them may have went underground and survived. They may be your ant people.
I mean,
I don't know.
Who knows, man?
This is
pure to me that they didn't do it.
We're in the realm of conjecture now. We're outside the realm of science, but it's not impossible. Improbable, but not impossible.
Let's jump back to science for a minute if we can.
Jump back to science.
Number 4. This is from Professor Loeb's 8 anomalies. Its arrival time was fine-tuned to bring it within tens of millions of kilometers from Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, and be unobservable from Earth at perihelion, with a likelihood of 0.005%. Your thoughts?
That was a number I came up with. I didn't know you had that one out there. Yes. Yeah, 0.005. Exactly. That is a very improbable improbability. Dude, if you just take the improbability of it coming in from the vicinity of the WOW transmission at 0.006 and the improbability of it having it being aligned with our plane at 0.002 and the probability you just mentioned at 0.005, actually it'd be 0.00. It'd be 0.005%, but it's actually a couple more zeros in front of it, about 405. When you multiply just those 3 improbabilities together, the probability of seeing this thing occur is 1 in 1.67 billion. The improbabilities of those three things are off the charts. I kid you not, off the charts. Now, all you got to do is multiply these together, and this is the numbers you get. I'm not making this stuff up. And I came up with that. Yeah, it agreed with what I came up with. That's interesting. I'm coming up with the same level of stuff that PhD astrophysicist is coming up with. Greg Allison right here.
Well, Greg, you're pretty humble, man, because you're a stud and you've got a resume that's equally as impressive as Professor Loeb's, in my opinion. I mean, you've worked for a multitude of space projects and defense systems. And yeah, dude, you're a stud. So, folks, it's wild because not only does Greg work on aerospace projects, but he's also a homesteader. I mean, he's like one of the most unique people you'll ever meet. I don't know people that are in aerospace and working for aerospace contractors and living on a homestead in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. I freaking love that. I find that so cool about you, and you're just so respected in the community, and you're always wanting to help people, and I love that. You don't expect things in return. I love that, man. You're passionate about what you talk about and bringing like love. Love is awesome. Love your neighbor. Don't hate your neighbor. Find peace. Find truth. Find a way to work with people. And we're called humankind for a reason, folks. Humankind, not human assholes. We're called humankind because we're supposed to be kind to others. Anyway, that's I'm projecting. Let's go diverting.
With Hugh in front of it. Hugh. You remember when you were humming that frequency, Hugh? And a tunnel?
Yes. Greg. Okay, do you still have that video up where you shot a light beam out of your mouth when we were walking?
Yeah, it's on my Galactic Greg's channel, Voice from Light. And I refer to yours, but you took yours down. You had the better, your camera got a better image of it than mine.
I need to find that video again. Yeah.
You need to find that video. I want to see that video again. You need to repost it so I can get a link and we establish the link for it. But yeah, Voice from Light.
So,
Homestead Rocket. Well, I started my own rocket. I had my own little space program at one time. I developed hybrid rockets, lots of high altitude balloons. I called it high altitude liftoff for Halo, and that's what I was shouting in the tunnel when it created the light.
That was cool. We tried to debunk it, but we, I was like, maybe it's a reflection off my watch, or anyway, the whole other podcast.
Well, the idea of it was that we were there to debunk strange videos, and we made it our own.
We were,
and now we were in the tunnel talking about what? Talking about Back to the Future. And you had this hat to give to me all along, and I didn't know it, but it was exactly about what, Marty McFly was wearing in that tunnel. And so you talk about the improbabilities. There must be some message in that. So Rex gave me this beautiful 10-4 cap, official 10-4 cap from 10 edition of it, and it was just totally coincidental. Here we are talking about Marty McFly in the tunnel where they filmed that scene, and behold, I shout light. Just the improbability. This is kind of like Comet 3i. There must be some message.
I believe there is. So I didn't know this at the time because one of my the word hue, if you say it properly, it's a very, very powerful sound. Very, very powerful. Hugh, and I kept doing that, and Greg was trying to figure out why I was doing that, and then come to find out Greg's middle name is Hugh or something, isn't it? Is it Hugh exactly?
That is Hugh. That's my middle name.
Whoa. Greg, so anyway,
translated means the watchman of the mine of holy fame. Which is weird. But I don't. Oh, what's Rex shouting Hugh? Okay, I'll go with it. And then I just, because the echo properties was so great, and I belted out, Halo, and light. And both Rex and I, two different cameras, captured the light from our voice and waveforms that matched the amplitude of the sound. It was strange.
Too bad we're not getting good audio in this podcast. It was going great until about 3/4 of the way through, and now our audio is glitching again. So, all right, well, folks, we're gonna go through this quick. Then maybe I don't know what the hell is going on, but anyway. So the number 5 was the gas plume. The gas plume around 3I Atlas contains much more nickel than iron. Is found in industrial produced nickel alloys and a nickel to cyanide ratio that is orders of magnitude larger than all known comets, including 2I Borisov, with a likelihood below 1%.
Well,
that's
it. Be seen pure nickel. We don't ever see that in nature or on Earth. It's typically a manufactured situation when you get pure nickel. Nickel comes with iron, so that is off the charts by itself. Why are we seeing pure nickel? But there's something else strange about this. We'll talk about when we get through this. Yeah, that is off the charts. And there's several of these improbabilities that wasn't calculated into the improbability I gave you of over 1 in a billion. When you start really racking all these together, it's off the charts, guys. It's like 1 and maybe some of these are almost incalculable. So this is really odd. Like I said, you don't need to manufacture a bunch of BS to come up with this is crazy.
Right. Absolutely. And here's another one. The gas plume of 3I Atlas contains only 4% water by mass, a primary constituent of familiar comets. And I just wanted to mention that even though there were news articles coming out saying that 3I Atlas is ejecting water like a cosmic fire hydrant, the amount of water that it is releasing compared to the amount of water that Hale-Bopp released is like Hale-Bopp was releasing exuberant amounts more of water than 3I Atlas.
Well, okay. It's almost time for me to throw in my other wrinkle. That's your
Do it. Wrinkle. Hello.
Here's the other wrinkle. First, we see like pure nickel, which you should never see. And then we see like very little water, which we shouldn't see. And the tail, anti-tail. Well, guess what? After we start talking about this and publicizing it, things change. Suddenly, it emits iron. Suddenly, it starts emitting water. Now, it should have been doing that all along, but it wasn't. But as soon as it did, all the astronomers, okay, roll over, go back to sleep. That anomaly in the beginning. And the scary thing is, and there's another YouTuber. Now, I thought about this myself, but there's another YouTuber who really took this to task and did a video on it. And his channel is called The Angry Astronaut. He said, "Is 3i Atlas signaling us?" Or maybe they're trying to compensate from our fears. It's like maybe they're listening to us and they go, oh, these people down here, they're expecting water. They're expecting iron. So let's dump some water, dump some iron, turn on the fire hose, put some water out. And later, they come up later. Not when you should have seen them earlier, but later. And it's after we made a lot of expressions about it. Even the anti-tail, now it's got a normal tail. So are they listening to us and responding? And he had several other similar anomalies. So he thought this was a sign of intelligence. And what he didn't say that concerns me is, okay, if they listen to us, that means they're able to decode the way we construct digital words in binary. They're able to take our formatting, because if you don't know what our formatting is, you don't know how many what our sync signals are, how we have like a video, how many pixels there are per line and that kind of stuff. If they're able to do all that, then they're also able to decode our language and make sense of what we're saying. They've got some rather sophisticated capabilities, which means maybe they're already here and learn these things from else. Maybe they got some kind of quantum supercomputer that's able to crack all these codes and figure this stuff out. Either way, it's pretty phenomenal, but it could be another indicator of intelligence, and that's another factor that Avi did not take that into account. Angry Astronaut was the first one to publish it. I mean, I thought of part of that, but he did some research on it, kind of dug deeper on it. I thought it would be nice to have a little cartoon, these little aliens on board. Oh, they're expecting water. Dump the water. They're expecting some iron. We got to throw some iron overboard. But it's really, that's even stranger that it showed up late, only after we make a lot of chatter about it. It should have been there all along, and it wasn't. So even though the astronomers go, okay, roll over, go back to sleep. No, it's not an excuse. Just like it's not an excuse that we're not getting signal or images from high-res instrument because the government shut down, since the instrument's actually run by the University of Arizona. And it's got grad students involved and other people, other groups and universities and agencies are involved in the high-res camera instrument. So sense.
Yeah, unless they want, it's almost like, do they want us to think that it's something? Because clearly the powers that be have programs and software and computers that keep track of the social media and what people's interests are, what they're looking up and what they're talking about. And they know that people are interested in this object. So I just find it very interesting. And it reminds me a little bit of the TV show or the film on Netflix called Don't Look Up. And Don't Look Up, politicians know that there is a comet that's going to hit the Earth and wipe out civilization as they know it, but they're more concerned about being reelected than the comet. It's like, hello, polls of ticks. You gotta love it. And yeah, we do want answers. You're right, man. We do want answers. We want to know what's going on. Amen. We've got people from all over the world in here. We've got people from China, from Germany, from the UK.
Perfect.
A multitude of states in the US.
Hey, love is the answer to everybody in every culture from every nation on earth. The answer is love. It's not conflict.
Right on. Right. But there is a lot more money in conflict. So, I mean, the way
unfortunately,
yeah.
Unfortunately, so.
Because they use people's fears. But anyway, that's all their podcast. Here's the next one. 3i Atlas showed extreme negative polarization, unprecedented for all known comets. Did I just go over this one?
Yeah, you didn't go over it. Polarization should be random.
Okay.
So that's all. That's not a thing, which might suggest that it's a craft of some type.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or it may have a engineered cloud of devices around it to shield it from impacts with particles in interstellar space, and especially in our solar system. And who knows, the anti-tail might have existed because it did take a hit. That's another possibility. It might have taken a hit from something. Or you might we have seen natural comets with anti-tails, and a few, not many, just like 3 or 4. And it could be, it's just where the jet got excited, it's close to the sun, and just spews out material. So there is a little explanation for everything we brought up. But having so many of these racked up at one time, the probabilities are off the charts that something is really strange here.
Is it time to bring in my tomato plant yet, Greg?
Well, yeah, because you might get, you haven't had a frost yet. We're probably going to get one in a few days.
Oh, man, it's been like in the 30s out here already. So,
yeah, we've had a few nights in the mid high 30s, but I think it's supposed to hit 35 here in a couple of nights. So, guy just delivered me some water, and he said he had ice on his windshield this morning, and from an area not far from me here. So, yeah, the temperature's down, but there's a few plants that just sprouted. I planted them months ago, and they didn't sprout because it was uncharacteristically hot for the month of June, and they just wouldn't sprout. And then they just suddenly sprouted like a couple of weeks ago, and I may bring some of those in to my house. I got a south facing window upstairs. I may put them on a rack up there if I can get to it this weekend.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, I'm a homesteader. I'm a prepper, and I think the ultimate prep is developing space.
If there's anybody in the chat that knows where that term became popular, it would be I would love to read it in the comment section, folks. If you know where I got that, please leave it in the comment section. If you get it right, I'll let you know, because I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And that website that I found that from 15 years ago really sculpted me to where I am today. It was kind of like going through basic training and special forces in the realms of conspiracy and stuff that could or could not be out there, and just critical thinking. And yeah, because I've gone from super conspiracy guy to debunking the majority of these super conspiracies. So I've done a complete 180 on that. And it's funny when I'm actually debunking conspiracies that I have friends that used to be total anti-conspiracy theorists are coming up now. I'm like, wait, calm down. There's, so anyway, it just goes to show that if you're in this industry long enough, if you're truly looking for the truth, then you're going to realize a lot of the stuff out there is nonsense. And here at Leak Project, our first motto is be the change you want to see. And our second motto that I've come up with lately is everything's bullshit until proven otherwise. So
that's a good.
Yeah. So anyway, folks, thank you for being here. And let's jump on to number 8 now. 3i Atlas arrived from a direction coincident with the radio wow signal to within 9 degrees. And there's a likelihood of that at 0.6%. Now that wow signal, I think, is cool. And the timeline, the date of the wow signal, August 15th, 1977, that is a pretty dang cool year. In 77, they launched the Viking orbiters. They got the wow signal. Star Wars came out. 77 is a pretty cool year.
Yeah,
your thoughts on wow?
I was 17 years old then.
Oh, 17. Yeah. Q. Wow, cool. 17 Q connection, right?
No, what is it?
17, and Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
So the question is, did the wow signal originate from 3i Atlas? It might have, because if 3i Atlas was at that point in time trying to align itself with our plane of the ecliptic and maneuvering, it would have deviated from today, where it is today, from where it was then. So it might have been coming in and it might have been maneuvering to make the alignment. So there would be some angular displacement from the signal and 3I Atlas. Another possibility is that it could have been an object sending course correction or other data to 3I Atlas. So there might be another visitor behind it coming to visit us. So that is something to pay attention to. We may have something else on its way. So the 3I Atlas may not be the last hurrah for whatever this is. So maybe it'll exit the solar system and we'll think, well, that's over. But maybe it's not. Like I said, it may just forge probes on Mars or the Jupiter icy moons that could start self-replicating other systems. And maybe it's gathering intel for what might be following. Or it could be from 3I Atlas itself. But here's the thing. From the distance that 3I Atlas is believed to have been at that time based on its current velocity, and it could have been slowed down. It could have been going faster. But it would have taken gigawatts, basically the power of a nuclear reactor, to deliver that signal. If that signal came from another star, it would have taken the power of a star. You would have to have a full Kardashev 2 civilization to transmit that signal. And why would they transmit a signal like that in our direction from a Kardashev 2 civilization, especially given the concerns of the dark forest and dark fortress, my twist on theories. So that is quite interesting. And like I said, it may have originated from 3I Atlas. It's more probable than maybe a star, something harnessing the entire energy of a star to send a signal. Why would that happen? That is really odd, and that's why the person that detected the signal wrote "wow" on the tape that printed it out, and that's how it came to be called the wow signal. It's like, wow, this is crazy. This must have been an off the charts strong signal. Signals radiate through space, and they get weak by inverse law. They get weak fast. So it took a lot of power to transmit that, but far less power if it were coming from 3I Atlas or some other object behind it.
Wow.
Exactly. Wow.
Okay, I want to ask one more question, and I'm having some audio opportunities here, so I really want to do a follow-up with you. Maybe we could do it next week or the week after. But Greg, everybody loves you. I love you. Let's do this again soon, okay?
All right. Hey, I'd like for everyone to go to my Galactic Greg's channels and watch my video of the Dark Fortress. This could be a dark fortress. And if you were going to approach us from another civilization, this would be the time they would want to do it. And that would be the way you would want to do it. And I also mentioned that in my last video about 3I Atlas. So you want to watch those videos. I go in a lot of detail there. You can also check out my Green Greg's channel. I do a lot of prepper type news there, just what's going on in the world, or the fact that we seem to be on the verge of a World War III in more ways than it ought to be, something that's totally nonsense. We shouldn't be in this condition, especially if we spread love, maybe we can stop it. The other thing, I've got prepping videos on there. I've also got videos about homesteading, wild herbs you can eat, how to garden. I have videos from way back about all kinds of gardening methods, how to grow food without having to go to the store to buy stuff. But you have to.
Isn't that where food comes from, Greg?
I got videos on my.
Isn't that where food comes from? The store?
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get a lot of poison and crap. A lot of stuff is mislabeled. Sometimes you can read the labels on the cans, and you'll discover it tells you about something that's an ingredient that's not in the ingredient list, even on the same can. So you really wonder what you're getting. What they don't tell you is all the pesticides and herbicides.
Yeah,
and
in that can spray in the can to keep it fresh, and then the bioengineered ingredient.
And there's all of the can itself. The can's got a liner in it, which has got your gender bending hormone chemicals in it. So yeah, you grow your own food as much as you can. That's one of my top advices. And I'm a homesteader here. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I'm totally off grid. My image is coming to you via power from a solar array system that I designed myself because I am an electrical engineer. Yeah, I'm totally off grid, and we're talking via Starlink satellite. I don't have a cable coming out here. This is not through some cell phone network. So yeah, here's the funny thing. We were talking about maybe 3i Atlas is listening to us. Maybe they're also interfering with us.
You must not know we are alien spacecraft. We come in peace.
Okay, since we're having so many audio opportunities, and I'm noticing in the chat that people, we don't have as many people in the chat now because of the so let's do a follow-up next week. But I have one more question for you that I think is really important and saving the best for last here. There's people out there that have been abducted by things they can't explain. I've got family and friends that have had these experiences. I've interviewed many people with similar experiences, like a nuclear submariner on the Navy that was being abducted by these things that were grays, and like he would get freaked out. The only place they wouldn't abduct him was when he was on the submarine. They took him in the barracks and his house, all over, and his accounts are identical to close friends and family that I have that have shared almost identical experiences. So my question is, if 3i Atlas is a spacecraft, could that be the same civilization that's connected with these grays, whatever they are? Your thoughts. And real quick, Shane, you're a stud. Thank you for the super chat, brother. How the hell are you? You're in my old stomping grounds, Salt Lake City. Hello.
It's within the realm of possibility. Now, there may be many civilizations. It may be that the grays are different, but this may be their time. They want to change things, make their own reset. And so maybe they want to use an external device such as this to get our attention, to do something bigger than, to be doing the abduction type phenomenology as many people as they're experiencing. They would have to have a pretty vast force here in the vicinity of our planet, maybe in another dimension of time and space. So this, the representative of our Congress, Tim Burchett, has said that they're coming out of the ocean underwater bases. He just flat out said that's the truth. We've got our Secretary of State, Rubio. He's actually come out on video and stated, this is one of the most powerful people in the U.S. government. He has stated unequivocally that these things have flown over our nuclear bases, our military nuclear sites. He's just come out and said it point blank. That's really disclosure. It's coming from the Secretary of State. And he's also said that this is so high level that even our presidents don't have access to this data. It's the state of deep. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to twist terms around not to cause problems with the algorithms.
He's working on it, man. He's just so binary. 1 0 1 0.
It could be. You can't rule it out, but there could also be other civilizations. This could be some other civilization that has tried to stay hidden according to the precepts of Dark Forest and lived in the Comets according to my precept of the Dark Fortress. My answer is to the Fermi paradox. So it could be hand in hand, or it could be different, or it could be none of the above. But it is within the realm of possibility, which either way should be very concerning. Very concerning. My take on this whole phenomenology is your submarine friend. I'm sure he would agree with me, and he and I would probably get along real fabulously. Is that this is something that harasses people like that, messes with their minds, drives people nearly to the point of insanity. You just wonder what the heck's going on. It's not good. So I see malevolence in this kind of phenomenology. High level malevolence, cause those experiences are like being raped repeatedly, like night after night after night. It's horrible. There's nothing good about that. And if this was a force for good, they wouldn't be doing that to people.
I'm glad you brought that up. And the only thing I can think about is how scientists do experiments on animals. And they think it's for the greater good because they're testing for certain diseases and toxins, etc., to see the toxicity of certain products. And I think that's terrible. Like, I don't want to judge those people, but I think that that's terrible that those poor animals have to go. It's frightening. And on that note, folks, thank you so much for dealing with the audio opportunities and for being here with us. Make sure to subscribe to Green Greg's YouTube channels. He has several. So Galactic Greg's, Green Greg's, and then what was your other one? The worm. Swivelhead.
Hey, I've got one frogs singing the rain on my old barn or something like that. So I've got different ones out there. I haven't promoted that one much lately, but yeah, product papas. That's another one I haven't put in content on recently. But
you're a busy dude. This guy is homesteading, building rockets, doing YouTube, helping protect the nation from electrical problems from the sun, like the electric grid defense system. I don't know how, and he doesn't even sleep, folks. Seriously, Greg gets like 2 hours sleep a night. Dude, if I got...
So I'm also, my day job, I work remotely doing avionics system safety and communications system safety on a commercial space station. It's a totally commercial project for a project called Starlab. Y'all can look that up. I work on that. So, and it's a joint, the Europeans are very involved in it. So a lot of times I've had meetings at 5 a.m. in the morning because I work with Germans with that project, because a lot of the guys are over in Airbus in Germany. So, yeah, I highly encourage people to check out especially my Galactic Greg's channel and my Green Greg's channel. Also look up my universal habitat concept and consider spreading and metastasizing love. It's the only way we're going to stay free and survive. The other options are eradication at our own hands or becoming mind-controlled robots under a hive mentality. So, yeah, I go on late a lot of times. That's exactly true. I'm big into prepping. I do believe in self-defense, but I also believe that...
Right on, dude. I love that. I love that. And I love you, Greg. And thank you so much for being the change the world needs to see. Thank you for spending time with us here at Leak Project. And I want to thank everybody for being here with us as well. Much love to all of you. Thank you for being here with us. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell, be well, and be the change you want to see. And we'll see you soon.